Off the coast of Scotland, about 7 miles off the coast of Aberdeen, Scotland, is this huge structure. It's called Magellan, and it's an offshore oil rig. And for those who don't know much about offshore oil rigs, the people who work on these rigs, who are known as roughnecks, they're doing arguably one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. I mean, these structures are like hundreds of feet off, the boiling water down below. It's constantly windy. All the structure is slick, like it's wet constantly. And, if you fall, you could fall literally hundreds of feet to the water, or fall, down at one platform to the next, where there's often not railings barring you from falling, 10, 15 feet below. It's just this really dangerous thing. And then on top of that, the actual drill that sits in the middle of these oil rigs, these massive structures, they almost look like office buildings out in the middle of the ocean. There are these drills that go straight down into the ocean to get the oil. And periodically, there's this thing called, I think it's called a blowout, where basically it explodes and there's really not even a reason for it. And there's nothing you can reasonably do to protect yourself. So these roughnecks who are like in these filthy, hot, like dangerous environments as this drill is pumping all this oil, it could literally just explode at some point. And if you're near it, you're done, okay? So it's this unbelievably dangerous environment. Not to mention it's very austere, like you're out in the middle of the ocean, miles from land. And so these roughnecks, like the downside is how dangerous it is. The upside is you get paid really well.
Yeah.
So like that's why people do it. And so typically the people who work, these roughnecks, they work for like months at a time and then come home again. And so I think it was December of 2000, there was this guy named Gordon Moffat, who was a roughneck. He was 41, and he was working on Magellan, this offshore oil rig off the coast of Scotland. And he was a mechanic. And so he didn't actually work on drilling the oil. His job was to basically maintain the drill. And he had done many tours, out at Magellan in particular. He'd stayed there for months at a time, come home. Like, this is a guy who's a seasoned roughneck. And one thing you need to keep in mind about how these drills work is they basically drill 24/7, the drill itself. And at any point it stops drilling, like if there's an issue with the drill, the people who own the drill are losing a lot of money. It's very expensive to operate. And so this drill goes 24/7 until the oil runs out, which can be years at a time, but it must be maintained at all time. And so Gordon's main job was just at any moment while he's out at this rig, he could be called to do some sort of maintenance. And so he might have weeks where he does nothing, and sometimes he has 5 things to do in the middle of the night. So it's just sort of like the on-call job. That's Gordon's job. And so he finished up one of the basic routine maintenance things he had to do on this particular day. It was mid-December of 2000. And he goes back to his room. And so there's all these little bunks that are on the structure itself. He goes back to his room, he takes off his stuff. And then he suddenly gets a call saying that, hey, there's a new issue with the drill. This is the middle of the night, it's stormy outside. I mean, it's like a perfect setting for a horrible disaster, okay? He gets a call and it's like, hey, there's an issue with the drill. We need you to come back and fix the drill. I don't know the particulars of the issue, but apparently for Gordon, what he was being asked to do was relatively routine, but a little bit complicated. There was an issue where, imagine this drill is this long tube that kind of runs from the very top of the drill, and there's like a circular hole that kind of goes all the way down the platforms itself. The drill fits down through all of it and goes into the ocean, and periodically there'd be an issue with the drill itself where the issue was sort of like in between platforms. There's multiple platforms to the oil rig, and there'd be an issue where the mechanic, in this case Gordon, would have to directly access the drill, but he couldn't reach it from the platform he's standing on here. And if he went to the platform above, these are like mesh graded platforms, it's too far down to reach to it. So the only way to access this portion of the drill is to be put in a harness and basically lowered like in between platforms.
Almost like a window washer or something, right?
That's a great analogy. Yeah. Imagine a window washer, except they're on this drill. And so he's done this before. This is a routine thing. He goes out to the drill. There's all these guys that are standing on the platform that sort of sat right above where the issue was, which is down below, like 10 feet below them. And so he gets out there, and so the way that they run this harness system is they have this thing called a mouse hole, which is, so there's like, imagine a huge platform that kind of expands the entire, space that is the platform, like the oil rig. It's the entire width and depth of the oil rig. And in the very center is like this big cutout, the circle where the drill fits right through it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't lower him through that that space between the drill and the cutout, because the drill kind of wobbles around, you can get crushed between it. And so on every single platform, there's like 10 or 15 of them, they would cut these 10-inch by 10-inch holes that were sort of like 2-3 feet away from the central cutout, and they would lower their harnesses through those so that basically people like Gordon could access these inaccessible places
without being
drill.
in a situation where you get smashed.
So you're safe that way.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the platform. Again, it's nighttime, it's very windy, it's storming, and they're like, hey, it's right down there. And he's okay. So he goes down one level to the platform right below. You can see his colleagues, 20 feet above him on the platform right above. And he's like, all right, send down the harness. And so they feed this harness, just a 3-point harness that's connected to a metal rope or a line, and they put it right down through that mouse hole on the platform above him. And that metal line that the harness is connected to feeds all the way back up to this winch that's controlled by a winch operator that's, a couple platforms up in this, glassed in sort of like overlook where they can actually see the whole platform. They can see the folks on the upper platform. They can see sort of Gordon, but they sort of have eyes on everything. And so they feed this harness down through the mouse hole. It gets to Gordon, puts the harness on, and then he gives the thumbs up to the folks right above him. And then they, in turn, and they call out to the winch operator, like, hey, he's ready to go up. And again, this is routine for everybody.
Yeah.
So the winch operator hits start, and the winch slowly begins to retract. And slowly but surely, Gordon is lifted off the ground on the lower platform, and he's brought up, 10 feet or whatever it was, until he could access the section of the drill that he couldn't before. And he, waves to the guys at that point, says, I'm good, I can see what I need to do. So the guys above him, they in turn, they wave to the hoist operator, like, all right, stop it. He hits the button, it stops. And so now Gordon is where he is, he fixes the drill, it begins to work again, everything's great. And so he signals to the guys above him, like, hey, I'm ready to go back down again, because he is done. And so they turn and they ask the winch operator to go ahead and lower him. And so the winch operator's like, okay. He hits the start button and then just kind of like starts looking off into space. Like this is his only job is literally pushing this button.
Yeah.
That's all he does. And so he's not really paying attention. He didn't realize that he had not reversed the settings of the winch, that instead of flipping it to now when he hits start, it lowers Gordon. He had left it in retract mode. And so when he hit start, the winch began to continue to raise Gordon up towards the platform above him where that mouse hole is. And so now he's not moving quickly. This is a slow moving winch. It's like, and it's like, 10 or 15 feet until he would even get to the platform above him. So it's not like, oh my God, stop the winch. It's more like, come on, dude. Come on, Bill. Like, what are you doing up there? And so the guys on the upper platform right above Gordon, they notice this. They turn and they're like, come on, dude. Like, you screwed it up.
Yeah.
But the guy doesn't hear them. And it's so windy and loud out, and he's not really paying attention that he can't hear any of the commotion, the hoist operator. He's just like not paying attention. And so after a couple of moments, the guys on the platform and Gordon, they start to realize like he doesn't know this is happening and we can't get his attention. And he was several platforms above them. It'd be hard to get to him quickly. Yeah. And so they have this phone that's right nearby that radios up to the hoist operator. And so the guys are like, oh my God, he's not stopping. And Gordon by this point is starting to scream. And so one of them, the guys right above Gordon, they run to this phone, they grab it, they call, the hoist operator answers it. And he's like, stop the winch, it's going the wrong way. And so the hoist operator, he's like, oh my God, and he hits stop. He turns it and he begins to lower it, but nothing happens. Well, it was too late. So what had happened in the space of time between them realizing this wasn't stopping and going to the phone is Gordon had been pulled all the way up to right below the platform. And the only way he was going to go is through the mouse hole, which is a 10-inch by 10-inch hole. And the harness had no quick release on it. It was actually hooked to him. It was like somehow hooked to him in the back, but basically it was pulling from his waist. And so this 3-point harness that he can't get out of raised him up until his pelvis was pressed to the underside of this hole. And then slowly, as they finally got the guy on the phone, it pulled his pelvis through the hole. And so by the time the guy hit stop, the guy's spine, pelvis, and most of his torso had been ripped through. And unfortunately,
he made it?
And he made it.
Wow.
This is a really uplifting story.
So this is the one you think about a lot.
I do, because what they said about Gordon is when he reached the underside of the hole, when the winch is about to pull him through, and he knows it.
He knows it.
And it's a graded platform. They're looking down. He had sprawled himself out, hands above him, feet below him, like trying to push himself away from the winch that's pulling him pelvis first into this small hole. And they watched as this dude is like doing everything he can to stop, as his spine broke and his pelvis was slowly pulled through the hole.
That shit's crazy.
Bro.
Or the white social worker who goes into Baltimore ghetto. He's like, "Hey, everybody, I'm here," and they just beat the fuck out of him.
Yeah, this isn't. What's the movie
How about
with
the dude who was a
the Coolio
Rockefeller?
song?
The dude who
Dangerous
was a
Minds.
Rockefeller
Dangerous Minds.
who went to the Papua New Guinea tribe and they ate him.
You know why he fucked
What?
up?
Wait, yeah.
Yeah, he fucked up because he said, "I'm actually very important where I am." They go, "Oh, that's more nutrients."
No. What happened was he fucked up and was trying to get a sacred item from them and trying to buy it from them, and they didn't want to give it. And he was very insistent, and he apparently offended them deeply. And then when he returned, they're like, "Oh, he's back." And they stabbed him when he was in the boat. They were taking him in the boat over there, and they stuck him with a spear.
Oh,
and
maybe
he was
they
like,
just-
"Oh!" screaming out, and he cried. And then the guy who told the story, there's a whole depiction of how he died.
Pull it up.
I read that it's
Apparently.
because also like he was an important man in America in another country, and they're like that's better to eat that. That's a good person to eat.
I think the big thing
You
was
get their
the
power.
offense. I think it was the offense because they would have killed him the first time.
Maybe they would have killed him and
when
not
he
eaten
came
him.
back. Yeah.
There's one, and I'm trying to remember who it is. It might have been a Rockefeller.
What?
Somebody's like kid went to Africa and paid to watch them cannibalize a kid.
Yikes.
I gotta remember, it's a Rockefeller, like a DuPont, or like one of those names.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's telling this at parties. He goes, "Guys, just so you know, they were going to kill him and eat him anyway."
He did. No, I think that's exactly what he did. Came back and was like, they were gonna eat him anyway.
I just wanted to watch it.
Holy
Oh my
moly.
God!
Fuck,
Could you
I gotta
imagine
find that.
watching that? How about that dude, General Butt Naked? You remember that guy?
Yeah, hell yeah.
From
Oh, yeah.
Liberia.
Liberia, yeah.
No, who's
Still
that?
alive.
They would kidnap a child and cut the child's heart out and eat it raw before they would go into
Yeah.
battle. And he would go into battle buck naked. So they
Jameson
called him
whiskey.
Wow.
Jameson whiskey aired by a slave girl to watch her get cannibalized. What? Is that true? Referenced 130-year-old what?
That's a tough one.
130-year-old scandal and a horrifying anecdote from a colonial expedition to
JMO's
Africa.
been around for 130 years.
Wow, he bought a slave girl to watch her get cannibalized?
Mixture.
What's true? Go up to the top. Scroll up right there. By his own admission, Jameson witnessed the murder and mutilation of a girl and is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo in 1888. Incident took place after Jameson paid handkerchiefs to a man who said, "Give me a bill of cloth and see." Oh boy.
What?
Jameson insisted he did not set out with the intention of causing or witnessing any murder or act of cannibalism, and described what he ultimately witnessed as the most horrifyingly sickening sight I am ever likely to see in my life.
I mean, somebody's like,
That's a fair
"Just
statement.
give me a handkerchief."
But if you're
I'll show
like,
something."
what do you guys do? Do you
All right.
guys eat people? It's like, give me a handkerchief and you'll see. And that's all you have to give the guy? A handkerchief? And he's
We
gonna
all
go,
would have done it.
Good
We all would have
deal.
given a handkerchief, not knowing what it's going to be.
Oh, what
Yeah.
does this
What?
mean?
What do you mean? Here.
First of all, I'd be terrified to not give him the handkerchief.
Yeah.
Because he's already killing and eating people.
You don't know what you're getting.
Like the guy who got killed and eaten in Papua New Guinea. I bet he had no idea he offended them.
No.
He thought he was bargaining.
Yeah.
You know, like if you don't know their culture and you're deeply offending them by wanting some sacred item that they have, like
Pissing on the
whoopsies.
tree in Midsommar.
My parents were so proud of me for surviving this open heart surgery. They used to have me lift my shirt to their friends and collect a quarter from everybody. And everybody would be, Clark, congratulations, good job. You know, one of their friends was Dennis Pegg, the scoutmaster, you know, lieutenant. Of course you can trust him. So he's like, where is everybody, little buddy? You know, tussling my hair. And I'm like, they're all out back. You know, I just came in to watch cartoons for a minute. And he's like, let's sit down on the couch. Come sit next to me. And as I sit, he, you know, pats my knee. And he's like, hey, how about a quarter? I get to see your scar. I'm like, sure, Dan. He gives me a quarter. I lift my shirt up. And I have keloid condition where my scar is raised up. So he's like, I've never seen a scar so raised up like yours. How about I give you $1 if you let me touch it? You know, I'm 6 years old. I'm trusting of this guy. You know, like I have no thought in the world of ill intent, you know? So I'm like, sure. So he's, rubbing his fingers up and down my open heart surgery scar. And then he goes below the scar to my abdomen right at my belt line. And he's like probing and touching and rubbing. Is your stomach sore from the surgery? I'm like, no, not at all. He's like, okay, a minute or so of that. And he's like, all right, here's your $1. Go put that in your piggy bank. And this is where he got me right off the bat. This has to be our little secret. If you can't keep a secret, we can't be friends. And, being a secret keeper is what did me in. Pedophiles are stopped in their tracks if they don't have secrecy. Secrecy is the only thing that allows them to go on to other victims and to prolong this. So if I talk to parents, the number one thing I would tell them is to tell your children, never, ever, ever should an adult ask you to keep a secret. There's no reason, whether it's a parent asking their kid to keep a secret, why? Are you keeping a secret from your spouse? Like, there's no good reason to have a young child keep a secret. And that's what they should drill into their children. It is like, if anybody asks you to keep a secret, you should come to us immediately. That's number one. Predators, pedophiles, they need to initiate touch at some point. He just did that with me, He's sort of like, that should have came a little later in the process of grooming, but he tested the water right then. And like, how evil can somebody be? Like, this open heart surgery scar, which signifies life or death for me at age 6, that's what this animal uses to start grooming me and to initiate touch. Like, to touch my open heart surgery scar that I just had 3 months prior, being in the hospital for a month. Life or death situation. And that's what this animal is like getting off on, to see if he can touch it and then to keep me silent. And I said, of course, Dan, I can keep a secret. He said, okay, go put that in your piggy bank and I'll meet you out back. And he goes down to the family and just cranks on the smile and, hey, everybody, and hey, Dennis, everybody loved Dennis. And I don't know, my brother, so this is age 6 for me. My brother was age 12 then. And I don't know at what part in the grooming process he and Jeff were, but they were both in the grooming process also. And Dennis, there's no telling how many kids at once he's got in the pipeline of grooming. And, for me, it was years. He is slow, methodical. It's not like he's just grabbing you and touching you and that's on to the next.
Like, I barely ever cover content about kids getting harmed because I just can't do it. It's too close to home for me. I also, periodically will cover, I covered the story about this woman who, now I'm forgetting her name, unfortunately, but she was this wonderful woman in her 60s. She went hiking. She's a great hiker, did it all the time for exercise. And she got lost in this park, broad daylight. Like, this is not some gnarly place like in Pacific Northwest. It's like somewhere in like New Hampshire or something. But she gets lost, and being a seasoned hiker, she decides to stay put because she knows someone's going to come look for her. She's got family that knows she's out here. She's going to wait it out. And so she just sets up her camp. She's got food, she's got water, and she just sits there. But unfortunately, no one ever finds her. And she stays there for a month, and she didn't know it. She was only like less than half a mile from the trail. But she didn't know she was that close. And over the course of her time in this tent, where she really never moved, she kept a journal of each day, and she was just so graceful, like dealing with what was actually happening to her. She clearly recognized about 3 weeks into her stay that she wasn't going to be found, and she now was too weak that she couldn't realistically attempt an escape. And so she knows she's going to die. But the way she wrote in the journal was so profound. All of it was for her kids, for her husband. The language was so like positive and reminding them that she's fine, she's safe, no one's gonna harm me, I'm gonna pass away in my bed. But it's like, the grace that she handled the ending with it was incredible. And she reminded me so much of my mom. My mom, it was like telling a story about my mom dying in this horribly tragic way. And that one just really messed me up. It stuck with me for a long time, and it's not nearly the most gruesome story I've told. It's just, it feels like I'm seeing a bit of my life in this story, and those are the stories that stick with you.
The one that kind of messed me up was the one, actually, it was like a mall, and the guy goes through this one door and gets sent into this corridor where it's just like a catacomb of just all of these different, it's just like cement walls, cement floor, cement ceiling, and he just sits down somewhere in this chair and he never gets found.
Yep.
That was the one I still think about. I'm like, Jesus.
I know. No, there was there's a mall in Australia that is famous. It's this huge mall, and they have 8 miles of imagine here's the outline of the mall, pretend it's a perfect rectangle, bordering it, but unseen to the public are all these passageways for staff and storekeepers to move around away from the main walking areas. You can access your store and whatever from anyways. But there's 8 miles of it, and it's really not patrolled, I suppose. There's not cameras there, and this guy was senile, and he wandered into this area, and there were enough doors that were locked around him that he just sat down thinking, okay, someone's gonna find me, but they didn't. And it was just so sad.
What are some of the things that you've seen during exorcisms? You saw levitation, correct?
Yeah, one of the first cases we had was levitation, all but tips of the toes and the fingertips. I mean, physically impossible, to elevate as if there was a rope pulling everything off the ground except for tips of the fingers and tips of the toes.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
You're just so focused on mission, you're not thinking about it, you're just praying, you're doing your job, But yeah, I've seen the priest starts praying, and the lady sitting in a folding chair in the room about this size, one bound slides all the way from this wall to that wall.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, just like you're cool. You know what I mean? You're a SEAL. I was a helicopter pilot. You flew with a lot of guys, and no matter what happens, they're always cool. So on the outside, I'm always like, just doing nothing shakeless. On the inside, I was like, dude, you got to do that again. That was wow. Yeah. But I joke, but yeah, it's some of the stuff. It's just wow.
What are they saying when you're performing the exorcism?
Yeah, sometimes
possessed person.
Yeah, when we talk about what the demon's saying or manifestation, what happens is the demon appropriates the senses of the person. And so they take, again, the demon, properly speaking, possesses the body, and they appropriate their senses, sight, hearing. They traffic into senses. Some are sensitive to different things. I can't tell you how many times you can't hear it, but I've got Gregorian chant going right now. I can't tell you how many times I would do an intake, and they'd say, "Can you turn that music off?" I'm like, "What music?" It's coming out of your pants, or your jacket. I'm like, and I'll crank it up. You mean this? And I'll crank it up real loud. No, I'm not going to turn that off. It's aggravating something inside of me. Okay, I'm not turning it off. I've seen it one time for example, music, Gregorian chant, which is the chant of monks. Okay, Catholic monks, Benedictine monks, praying ancient prayers. Gregorian chant goes back to the 500s. Gregory the Great is when it kind of started. So maybe 600. And so the priest says, "Okay, let's basically get the party started." So I have the Te Deum, which is an ancient Gregorian chant. Te Deum laudamus, we praise you, God, and it's the chant of the choirs of angels chanting before the throne of God. Okay, and so I just hold it up, and as soon as the demon was kind of stoic, and as soon as he hears the Gregorian chant, immediately starts manifesting, and then the priest jumps in and does the exorcism. And then the next week I thought, I'm going to be smart, because I'm a smart guy, So I played something else, the Dies Irae. They played on Good Friday, the Day of Wrath. So I want to play that one as being a smart guy. So I just held that up, and the demon just went like this and looked at me and just looked at Father, and nothing happened. So I was like, man, I wonder what happened. So I look on the iTunes. The first one was chanted by the the Benedictine monks of Santo Domingo de los Silos in Spain. And then the second one was the Westminster Choir of lay people. So the demon knew. It's not just the words or the sound, it's where it's coming from, the heart of the church, the monastic heart of the church of chant. The demon could tell the difference.
Wow.
Pretty incredible, you know. So they traffic in the senses, you know.
But what do you do when you have a possessed person levitating?
Oh, the priest stops it.
Stops what?
Yeah.
The exorcism?
No, he just, hey, stop that. Yeah.